In Lesson 8.4, you will solve equations with variables on both sides. You're going to use the same process as always. You're going to draw train tracks. But when you look at this example, it says 8 plus 4d equals 5d. Whenever you see a variable on opposite sides of the equal sign, a little alarm in your head should go off and say, I need to get rid of one of those. So I'm going to get rid of the 4d. I'm going to get rid of 4d by subtracting 4d from both sides. The reason why I'm subtracting 4d is because I want to end up with 0 d's on the left. I don't want to divide by 4 because that would end up having 1d. I want to subtract 4d. So when I take a positive 4d and subtract 4d, that's 0 d's. So it's going to end up being 8 equals 5d minus 4d, which is 1d, or just d. So my answer is d equals 8. Now to check the solution, you're going to plug it back into the original problem. You're going to say 8 plus 4 times d, and d is 8, needs to equal 5 times d, and again, d is going to be 8. So now if you do the math, 4 times 8 is 32, and 32 plus 8 is 40. And on the other side, 5 times 8 is 40. Since the two sides are equal to each other, it checks out. 8 is the solution. In our next example, 6n minus 1 equals 4n minus 5. Once again, those alarms are going off because I have variables on both sides. I need to get rid of one of them. You can either get rid of the 6n or the 4n. It doesn't matter which one you choose to get rid of, but I'm going to choose to get rid of the 4n by subtracting 4n. And when I subtract 4n from this side, I want to write it underneath the n's since they are like terms. 6n take away 4n is going to be 2n. And then we have this minus 1, or a negative 1. Bring that straight down. Equals, on this side, the 4n minus 4n is going to be 0n. And 0n take away 5 is going to be minus 5, or a negative 5. Now to get the n alone, we're going to get rid of this minus 1 by adding 1 to both sides. So we end up with 2n, that's going to disappear, equals negative 5 plus 1, which is negative 4. And now we're going to divide both sides by 2. And we end up with n equals negative 2. Now to check your work, you're going to plug that back into both sides. So 6 times negative 2, take away 1, should equal 4 times negative 2, take away 5. Well, 6 times negative 2 is negative 12, and negative 12 take away 1 is negative 13. And then 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, and negative 8 take away 5 is also negative 13. So once again, we have landed on the correct answer. You may want to pause the video and try the next 3 on your own. 8a equals 5a plus 21. Those alarms are going off because we have variables on both sides. I'm going to choose to get rid of the 5a. If I got rid of the 8a, I would end up with 0 on this side, which would just mean I'd have to do some more steps. So let's go ahead and get rid of the 5a by subtracting 5a from both sides. 8a take away 5a is 3a. And on the other side, the 5a take away 5a is 0 a's, and then you're left with 21. Now divide both sides by 3 to undo the multiplying by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we have 1a equals 7. And you can check that by plugging it back into both sides, and it should work out to be the same. In the next example, once again, those alarms are going off because I have variables on both sides. You can get rid of the 3x or the 8x. This time I'm going to get rid of the 3x instead of the 8x because if I were to subtract 8x from both sides, I'd end up with negative x's, and I just try to avoid negatives whenever possible. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3x. But if you chose to get rid of the 8x, that would be fine as well. As long as you are doing legal moves, you will get the right answer. 3x take away 3x is 0x's, and then you're left with a negative 7 on the left. On the right side, 8x take away 3x is 5x, and then we also have a plus 23 to bring down. Now to get the x by itself, I'm going to get rid of this plus 23 by subtracting 23 from both sides. Negative 7 take away 23 is negative 7 plus a negative 23, which is a negative 30. And on the right side, this will disappear and you'll just have 5x. Now to get x by itself, we're going to undo the multiplying by 5 by dividing both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 times x is x. And on the other side, negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. So we have x equals negative 6. Once again, you can plug that back into both sides of the equation, do the math, and the two sides should equal each other. Our last example like that is a little bit trickier because of the fraction. I'm going to want to get rid of either the 7g or the 7/3 g. I'm going to get rid of the 7/3 g by subtracting 7/3 g from both sides. When I subtract the 7/3 g, I'm going to subtract it from the g's since they're like terms. Now 7g minus 7/3 g, I'm going to rewrite this 7g as a fraction with 3 in the denominator so I can subtract. Right now it's 7 over 1. To get that 1 to be a 3, we multiplied by 3. So I'm going to multiply the top by 3 as well. 7 times 3 is 21. So this is really going to be 21g. 21/3 g. 21/3 g minus 7/3 g. 21 take away 7. That's going to be 14. So it's going to be 14/3 g. Bring down the minus 12 equals, now on this side this is gone and I'm left with just 3. Now to get the g by itself, we're going to get rid of the minus 12 by adding 12 to both sides. So we end up with 14/3 g equals 15. And now our last step is going to be to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, because remember when you have a fraction attached to the variable, the quickest way to get rid of that is to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 13/14. And I'm going to multiply the other side by 13/14 as well. I'm going to write the 15 as a fraction by putting it over 1. I just wrote down the wrong thing, not 13/14, 3/14. Now on the left side, 3/14 times 14/3 is going to end up being just g. And over on this side, 15 times 3 is 45. And 1 times 14 is 14. And if I want to simplify that improper fraction and write it as a mixed number, 14 goes into 45 3 times, and that's going to bring you up to 42, which means there are 3 left over, and the denominator is going to stay the same. So 3 3/14 is going to be your answer. Our last example, it says a cellular phone provider charges $24.95 per month plus 10 cents per minute for calls. Another cellular provider charges $19.95 per month plus 20 cents per minute for calls. How many minutes of calls is the monthly cost of For how many minutes of calls is the monthly cost of both providers the same? In other words, when is the cost going to be equal? So the first provider is $24.95 a month. Plus 10 cents per minute. 10 cents per minute would look like that. And the other one is $19.95 plus 20 cents per minute. Now we have variables on both sides, so I'm going to get rid of one of them. I'm going to get rid of this 10 cents per minute on the left by subtracting 10 cents per minute from each side. So I end up with $24.95 this is going to be gone, equals $19.95 plus, when you subtract this, you end up with this. Now to get m by itself, I'm going to get rid of this $19.95 by subtracting $19.95 from both sides. $24.95 minus $19.95 is $5. And on the other side, you're going to have 10 cents times the number of minutes. Then to get this to be just m, instead of multiplying by 10 cents, we're going to divide by 10 cents. And m is going to end up equaling 50 minutes. At 50 minutes, the two plans will cost the exact same amount. At this point, you could stop the video, or you could try this last one on your own. It's kind of a tricky one, though. It says the length of a flag is 3/10 of a foot less than twice its width. So if the width is W, the length of the flag is 0.3 foot less than twice its width. So this would be 2W minus 0.3. Now it says if the perimeter is 14 4/10 feet longer than the width, find the dimensions of the flag. Well, first let's figure out the perimeter. The perimeter is going to be W plus 2W minus 0.3 plus another W plus another 2W minus 0.3. Move that over so there's more room. And the perimeter is 14.4 feet longer than the width. So this perimeter is 14.4 feet longer than the width. So the width plus 14.4. Oh, running out of room. Looks like I'll have to move it over just a little bit more. Now before you begin, you're going to want to combine like terms. We have 1W plus 2W plus another 1W plus another 2W. That's a total of 6W. And then the negative 0.3 and another negative 0.3. When you add that together, that's a negative 0.6. So 6W minus 0.6 equals W plus 14.4. Now we have variables on both sides. Let's get rid of one of them. I'm going to get rid of this 1W here by subtracting 1W from both sides. When I subtract the W from both sides, I'm going to make sure to subtract it from the W's. So I have 5W minus 6/10 equals 14 4/10. Now I'm going to add 6/10 to both sides to get the 5w by itself. So to get rid of this minus 0.6, we add 0.6. Now I end up with 5w equals 15. Divide both sides by 5. W is equal to 3. So the width is going to equal 3 feet. And the length is going to equal 2 times 3, which is 6. And then 6 take away 3/10 is going to be 5 and 7